What's up? My name is Macaulay Sexton, and this is Sexton Space. I want to talk about Kratom today, or as that dude Hamilton Morris says, Kratom. All right, so I really didn't know too much about Kratom. I had just seen people in vape shops and head shops buying it, and I always thought like they looked very desperate, and that was coming from a place of judgment. So that was like my first kind of view of Kratom, because I was like judging the people who were buying it. Now, mind you, I was in like early recovery, if you want to call it that. And so that's usually a very judgy stage, you know? And so it was for me. And I was going into head shops and, you know, buying vape juice or, you know, buying like CBD products for the most part. And so it was just interesting that I found myself judging people who were taking Kratom. And now years after like educating myself more on it, I found that like, obviously like smoke shop or like, you know, corner store Kratom is not the best, you know? Now there are brands like OPMS that a lot of people stigmatize and kind of judge, but in all honesty, I've seen that brand like work really well for some people. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. You know, basically, I want to just talk about a couple things. Now, there's a lot of stigma tied to Kratom because it's not prescribed. And so for people who are in recovery, you know, that can be frowned upon because it's not prescribed. Now, that's coming from a place of authoritarianism. And then from a more professional place, if there are like clinicians or addiction medicine doctors and stuff, a lot of times they're going to kind of discourage it just because of they want to retain their license, and they're not generally going to suggest things that are not FDA approved. You know what I mean? So there's that. But when it comes to just like on a peer-to-peer basis, there's a lot of stigma if something isn't prescribed, which is ironic because there's a lot of stigma if something is prescribed, like Suboxone and Methadone. You know, so it's very interesting. But so my views of Kratom were, again, just based on like limited understanding and zero experience with it. Okay. Like I had never taken it. Now, yesterday I took it for the first time ever. All right. And honestly, I had a lot of thoughts like, oh no, like, what if I really like this? And it's not that I think I'm going to lose control, because at this point in my life, after like over a decade, I've been able to like embody a practice of moderation with anything I consume. And the things that I consume, you know, whether it's food, water, little treats, I do it moderately. As far as substances, you know, I don't consume caffeine ever. So that's kind of abstinence with that. I haven't consumed opioids and benzos in a very long time. I haven't consumed alcohol, haven't consumed stimulants, you know? And so for me, if I do consume anything, it's a psychedelic, and I do so moderately. So that's just my experience. But still, there's this underlying idea that it could like just make me want to do it. Not that it would cause me to lose control though, if that makes sense. Now I know that sounds kind of weird, but there's a difference between that. Having an urge to do something doesn't then mean you have an obligation to do it. So I just want to be very clear on that. It can feel like that, but I know now through a lot of work that if something were to inflame the motivation to continue consuming it daily, I would not consume it ever again, probably. You know what I mean? That's just me, because I'm very disciplined with that. And, you know, even things like CBD, y'all, like if I take CBD, I try to just do one time. And at the most, if I have a chronic pain flare up or something, I'll do 2 days in a row. Well, there's definitely been scenarios to where I guarantee you it's been more than that. But like that is the boundary that I set. And it's kind of, to be completely honest, very unnecessary with things like CBD. Like CBD is super mild. But back to the point here. I just wanted to be transparent and honest, like where I'm at after working on my indoctrination into abstinence-only recovery and realizing that there are things that are on the table for me that I can consume responsibly, like the grown adult that I am. And even in saying that, that sounds condescending and patronizing, like other people are not grown-ups or are not adults if they can't consume moderately, and that's not what I mean at all. It's just about understanding like basic liberties and freedom as a human being who's over the age of 18. You know what I mean? But back to the point here. So I consumed Kratom yesterday for the first time ever, and the effects were very mild, reminiscent of like a Vicodin almost, but not like euphoric at that level. I remember feeling like, yeah, I definitely don't want to feel like this every day. That was the thought I had, which is so funny because like in the past, anything that changed the way that I felt that was more relaxing, it was like, this is what I need to feel like every day. So it was the exact opposite of that. I was like, I wonder how long this is going to last. I don't really want to feel like this for a long time. And it didn't. It lasted maybe about 6 hours, probably less. The whole time I was actually cooking dinner for the majority of the like strong feelings I had from it. Yeah, it was very mild. So now I have an experience with it, and I can say that it's definitely dose dependent when people are demonizing it or having a negative experience with it and then demonizing it. It's based on how they're engaging with it. It's based on their pre-existing mental health stuff. It's based on their perception, their internalized views, their indoctrination. Because dude, it was very mild. I'm sorry, like very mild. And I know, again, it can be stronger with extracts and larger doses and all that, but dude, this is a pretty beautiful plant medicine. Like I can tell. Now I've already seen that, but again, just witnessed it. Now I've seen, and I'm gonna just jump all over the place with this video. This is just stream of consciousness, okay? So just bear with me. But so the first time I saw this work was for someone who's going through detox, all right, from illicit fentanyl. And I saw how much relief it gave them. And so then I was like, oh shit, okay, this is pretty beautiful. And like, it really kind of made me look at my old judgmental views I had when I used to see people go into vape shops and head shops to buy it. And so that's what really opened me up to becoming an advocate for it. But I had never tried it. So basically I had to work up the courage to try it. And here we are. Tried it yesterday. No weird hangover or after effects. No motivation to take it again today. That's just my experience. Now, like I said, I'm going to be jumping around. Let's talk about extracts. All right, so extracts are very demonized. They're very demonized because of their higher alkaloid content and I guess what some people would call misuse potential, or what most people call abuse potential, which I don't use the term abuse. You can't abuse inanimate objects. Anyways, so extracts are actually what I've seen work best for people who are going through opioid withdrawal syndrome. Straight up. Now, this is not medical advice. I'm not advising you to take Kratom extracts at all. Don't get shit twisted. The thing about me, y'all, is I will be open and honest brutally when it comes to these things. And I do not engage in this paternalism and this idea that I can't say certain things because these addicts will take it as an excuse to do it. No. I understand autonomy. I understand each individual's ability to make decisions. Okay, even if you think that people with substance use disorders are incapable of making decisions, like that's bullshit. Like, I'm sorry. And the way I just said that doesn't make any sense, even if you think, but if you think that, that's bullshit. Now, okay, back to extracts. Now, people get themselves in a compromised position because they take, first of all, they don't look at the dose. Now, like from what I've seen with these extract shots, and mind you, I've never taken them, and now I'm open to trying them, but I'm probably gonna wait till I have a chronic pain flare up to try personally, or I can just do it recreationally. We'll see. But what I've seen is like the extract shots, like the OPMS shots, the liquid ones, it's like multiple servings if I'm not mistaken. If not 2, I think it's 4. I think it may be 2. Now people aren't reading this. They're taking the whole shot. And then they're wondering like why they're having pronounced effects and why they may want to continue doing it more. And it's, again, they're like immediately engaging in it at a level that's not an acknowledgement of the suggested dose. Now, when it comes to each people's dose, like that's subjective. It depends on your body weight. It depends on a lot of different factors. So I actually disagree with this idea or this sentiment that you can't take more than a recommended dose or prescribed dose of something. I think that that's like discrediting individuals and their feelings and their bodily autonomy, but that's a whole other story. But when I really look at like the problems with extracts, it seems to be with the fact that people, they're not informed, first of all, on what they're even taking a lot of times. Like people on TikTok were talking about those feel-free shots, and they were like, I didn't even know what was in this. It's like, well, why the fuck are you consuming it, dude? So a lot of it is lack of education, lack of awareness, and dose. And then consistency. So if someone consistently takes multiple OPMS shots, then like, yeah, you're probably going to have a more pronounced experience, and thus you may have more of an experience with withdrawal. But the thing about Kratom withdrawal is that there are people who legit just don't experience it. And I have a friend who was taking extracts and stopped and was prepping for like intense withdrawal and never experienced it. You know what I mean? So yeah, as far as extracts, they're demonized. I think they have their place. And I think that they're going to be more effective for some people. To be completely honest, the source that I got mine from, shout out New Hope Botanicals, like obviously they're a really good source, and they care about like, the quality of the product and where they source it from. And once again, shout out to New Hope Botanicals, shout out to Jordan. That powder was not overwhelmingly strong or anything, and I'm not speaking to like, oh, it's not potent or whatever. It's not supposed to be. It's a different product than the extract. But what I'm saying is like, that powder, with my first time ever using it, was pretty mild as far as the effect, and that's because I didn't take a large amount. Okay, so again, I'm not saying that their product is not potent. Like, I wanted to try their product first because I trust them. And again, they have a high standard when it comes to sourcing, and they care about like contaminants and stuff like that. And that's why I reached out to them. The point I'm trying to make here is that for my first time ever using it, and I'm very sensitive to shit, the fact that didn't have any sort of side effects or adverse things is a huge testament to its efficacy, in my opinion. Of course, that's anecdotal, and I'm, again, not insisting that no one else will have consequences or side effects. I'm just saying I understand the implementation of an extract. Because if I was in a chronic pain flare-up yesterday, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to have to consume like grams and grams of it. You know what I'm saying? So I get the appeal of just consuming a little bit of liquid or a little bit of powder. So I just wanted to share that. And again, shout out to New Hope Botanicals. Go check them out. And I'm not getting paid to say this. They gave me some samples. But I just want to shout them out. Jordan is a cool Kratom advocate on TikTok. I think his name is Kratom Ninja. I think it's KR @TOM Ninja. So, but again, just to be clear, I'm not saying, oh, it's not, their product isn't strong. I'm saying that there's a difference, obviously, between powders and extracts, and I get the application of extracts. Now, recently, I have come across some people on TikTok who are just like in that overzealous stage of their recovery. Often this happens early on, where they feel like they need to save other people from the thing they've had a bad experience with. So I've come across those people on TikTok, and they're crusading against Kratom and are saying, we just want doctors in charge. No, dude. No, when you put things in that position to be regulated, they become over-regulated and restricted. And I'm not with this authoritarian view. No, have higher standards when it comes to testing, heavy metal testing, contaminant testing. Have certain rules when it comes to education. And, if you're going to regulate it, make it something that's like in actual Kratom dispensaries, and that you have to have some sort of like licensure or something in order to sell Kratom. Sure, fine with that. Get rid of the gas station Kratom, whatever. But this idea that doctors need to be in charge of this, it's like, okay, well, how's that gonna happen? Well, you have to get the FDA involved, and this needs to be FDA approved. And then what's gonna happen? They're going to turn it into, it's basically, they would change it chemically, as far as like in some form of like chemistry, and change the kind of like pharmacological, I don't even know how to describe this. They would just like turn it into a pharmaceutical, basically. You know what I mean? And I'm not against that. I think that that should be entertained. To basically make extremely concentrated versions that are like pharmaceutical grade of mitragynine, if that's how you pronounce it. So I'm not against that, actually. I'm actually for that. And a lot of Kratom advocates will disagree with me on this. and say, no, like keep it just the plant. But I'm not one of these plants over pills guys. I understand that like pharmaceuticals are often more effective than plant medicines for some people, you know? But yeah, so I get where people are coming from who are like trying to scare people away from Kratom, but it's really, they lack personal responsibility when it comes to how they engaged. And they're often in this role of like, no one told me what I was taking. It's like, dude, educate yourself before you put something in your body, bro. So that's the huge issue with people who have bad experiences with it, is they're not educating themselves and they're just consuming something and buying it at a gas station. You know what I mean? And so that's the real issue here, is lack of education, lack of awareness, and then lack of responsibility when it comes to the fact that you consumed Kratom at a huge, you know, a copious rate on a daily basis, and you're consuming ounces and ounces and ounces of it. Like, of course, you are in a position now to where maybe you're having some side effects or symptoms because you're consuming such a huge amount. And if you consume a huge amount of any powder like that, that's even natural, then it's gonna have some effect on you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's something that can lead to like constipation or other issues. So that kind of leads me into like potential side effects. So like constipation is one. People talk about dizziness or nausea and all this other shit. Honestly, I think that's just dependent on the person and how much you're consuming. So again, if you're consuming ounces and ounces and ounces of Kratom every day, then like, yeah, that makes sense that you could have some consequences from it, you know? And I'm really not touching on everything, y'all. This is just off the top of the head. I'm freestyling all this right now. And I'm gonna get back to making videos like this. I'm not gonna come with any sort of preparation, just, you know, my kind of wild approach or opinions on these topics. And so even grammatically, it's gonna be kind of wild. But that's all I have to say for today, I guess. I'm a huge advocate for Kratom. I think that it should be used for people who are experiencing withdrawal syndromes inside of like treatment settings, which is, that's a hard sell. That's a conversation for another time. So yeah, hit me up in the chat or the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Kratom. If you have nothing but demonization and propaganda to spread about Kratom, just save it. I don't need to hear that. You can do it, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. Much love, y'all. Please like and subscribe. Check out the Recovery Reform podcast here on YouTube. And that's a podcast that I host with my partner, Dr. Taylor Nichols, who is an addiction medicine doctor. And so it's me and a doctor, and we have guests, and we also do one-on-one conversations. So check that out. That's a separate channel. I may start posting those on here as well, but for now, I'm gonna start posting more consistently on here in these long-form videos. Again, please like and subscribe. Much love.